Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Crime Time with Connie. I'm obviously Connie, and good morning. If you're new here, hello. I come here every Monday, it might be Tuesday, and I talk about a crime case. And I have my cup of coffee because it is very early. I have a baby, and so time don't stop. You know what I mean? Max is also here today. He is a snoozin'. Well, he's not really, he's just looking at my feet. But today's crime case is actually one that I've known him for a very long time. I think there was an episode of Snap on it when I was a child, and it stuck with me because the murder in this case is actually a woman. And my little brain couldn't comprehend that. I'm like, why would a woman kill someone? I always thought it was a male, you know? But I was obviously wrong. So, Sandra Lee Rozzo was born on January 16th, 1966 in Homestead, Pennsylvania. Her father wanted to name her Sandra after her mother, Sandra Poole, because Sandee was the first girl born on his side in 2 generations. So, to keep the Italian tradition alive, he decided to name her after a family member. Sandee's mother, Sandra, said the day she was born was very different. It was winter, it was January in Pennsylvania, but that day it was 80 degrees. And I think it really describes who Sandee was as a person. It was a nice, sunny, bright day. By 1973, Sandra Poole, Sandee's mother, actually packed up her kids in a U-Haul and moved from Pennsylvania to Florida. She wanted to escape her husband. I'm assuming there was abuse in the household. I couldn't find any more information from that time until Sandee was in high school, but in high school, Sandee discovered her passion, and that was modeling. Her friends and family said she was actually very good at it, and by the looks of it, she was. Her friend said she took it very seriously. She worked very hard at her body. She enjoyed weightlifting, and her goal was to actually make it into the movie business. Now, since it's hard to get started into modeling, it's hard to get a lot of gigs, Sandee actually had to work at clubs at night as a bartender. She definitely had a lot of men flock to her. Her friend said it was not unusual that Sandee would attract a lot of men. Sandee would go on to get married and have a daughter, but unfortunately they would divorce, and her daughter primarily lived with her ex-husband. In 2001, Sandee would work at a club called Inferno. In November of that year, she would meet a new bouncer named Tracy, and Tracy was a male. She befriended him and tried to help him make new friends. Sandee's mother said Sandee just had a big heart, and she would help anybody out. Now, as for a relationship between Sandee and Tracy, I can't 100% confirm that they were in a relationship. In a later statement, she said that they went Christmas shopping in December, a month after meeting each other, and he gave her a kiss goodbye. A few weeks later, they worked together for New Year's Eve, and he was angry with her because he felt like she disrespected him. I'm assuming over maybe having an interaction with another guy.
Mommy, Mom.
Good morning, honey.
Mom.
Oh, look, we got a Shadow. This is Shadow. He can't really jump. He has one eye. He's usually not in here with me because his little ass, shakes like an earthquake. And he makes so much noise, but he's the cutest little thing. And he's so soft. This is Shadow. Oh, thank you. Oh, there he is. There he is. Okay. All right, you got it. All right, back to Sandee. So after Tracy was upset with Sandee over her talking to another male, I'm assuming that's why he was upset with her, he proceeded to leave 23 messages on her answering machine. Now, this is like the early 2000s, so it wasn't like a cell phone. It was like home phone situation, you know what I'm saying? Like it's going straight to the box, you press it. That's crazy. And for her birthday in January, he gave her a Victoria's Secret package. I don't know what that means, but I'm curious to know, was there a package deal back then for Victoria's Secret? Anyways, a few weeks later, they went out to dinner and he got angry at her again because he thought she was flirting with, obviously, another man. A friend would tell Sandra that Tracy actually went back to the restaurant and threatened the man. In February, Sandee actually tried to break up the relationship. Whether that was an actual relationship or, like, a close friendship. She told him that she was still in love with an old boyfriend whom she was actually living with at the time. On February 22nd, 2002, after 4 months of meeting Tracy, Sandee needed a ride home. And Tracy offered it to her. What Sandee did not know was that Tracy was actually a scumbag with a horrible, violent history. And that night, Tracy would not take no for an answer. He had forced himself in, he beaten her, her, and held her hostage for a couple of days. But Sandee convinced him to let her go. She told him that she needed a ride to the airport because she was going to go visit a friend. He drove her there, and he made sure that she knew that if she told anyone, he would kill her, her family, and that included her young daughter. But Sandee said no. I mean, she didn't say no to him directly. She told a friend. She told the police. She wanted to see him rot in jail. And Tracy was arrested, and the trial would not start until August of 2003. Now, Tracy obviously had his side of the story. Tracy's real name is actually Timothy Allen Humphreys. He goes by Tracy. He was born on November 15th, 1966, and he is from Iowa. Tracy is described as a very good-looking man, but also very intimidating. He was described as also being very sweet and calm. But by his records, I don't really believe that. His records showed that he had a history of violence against women, kidnapping, and other charges like theft. And he started working at Inferno, the club that Sandee was working out, as a bouncer. His body would definitely come in handy for that job. He said that him and Sandra were in a relationship for about 3 to 4 months and described it as very intense. That there was a lot of passion. He would describe their sex life as rough. He said, like most relationships, it started out nice, but they soon started to argue a lot. Tracy said that the trouble had started because they got caught in their boss's Mercedes having sex. Sandee was obviously upset because the police officers saw her naked. He said that Sandee felt very embarrassed, which I would be too. And that led to a very big argument. He said that led them to go home with other peoples that night. Tracy said that he would hook up with girls right in front of Sandee to make her mad. Obviously, the relationship went downhill quickly after that. And he told her one night that they should actually take a break. He said he had a moment of weakness and went over there to have sex. And of course, they enjoyed rough sex. And that it was not forced. So that was his side of the story. According to Sandra's sister, whose name is also Tracy, there was absolutely no doubt in her mind that her sister was beaten and by him because of what she looked like. She had bruises all over her body and even a black eye. Since Tracy had a prior record, he was facing another 10 years in prison. He was very upset because he already spent, I believe, 3 years in prison, and he said he'd rather die before he goes back. Obviously, there was some time before the trial would start, since it was supposed to start in August of 2003, and the incident happened in February of 2002. Tracy obviously left his job at Inferno, or maybe he was fired, but he didn't work there anymore, and he began working as a private fitness instructor, and I saw he did sales there also. In September of 2002, while working there, a young woman came in and wanted to look for a membership. Her name was Ashley Laney. Ashley was born on October 13th, 1982. She was raised by her grandparents because at the time of her birth, her father was in prison for sexual battery and her mother had trouble with substance abuse. But everyone who knew Ashley said that she was a very good student. She was very kind and she had her head on straight. She would graduate high school with honors and would go to college, but she actually dropped out her freshman year and began to work. She was working at the Planet Smoothie across the street from the gym in Brandon, Florida. That's when she went across the street to find a membership. And that's when she met Tracy. Even though Tracy was 35 at the time and Ashley was 19, he asked her out to dinner. And sadly, of course, a spark occurred. They said that their relationship didn't exactly start out as exclusively dating each other. They were mostly F-buddies. And Ashley said that even though she was dating other people, she only slept with Tracy at that time. But Tracy said that he really liked Ashley because she was the only woman in his life that never chased him, and he liked that. Only woman that never pushed me. That's gross. Of course, he didn't tell her about his prior history at first. He actually told her that he was a model and an ex-football player that played in the Rose Bowl, and that he was Vin Diesel, and I saw Tom Cruise's stunt double for Tom Cruise and Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel I can kind of see, but Tom Cruise? Ashley became so in love with him that she quit her job at the Planet Smoothie and started working at the gym with him. Now, by March of 2003, that's when they were exclusive to just each other. They also decided to move in with each other. And that's when Tracy thought it was a good idea to tell the woman he loves, the woman he just moved in with and saw a bright future with, that he might go to jail for another 10 years for sexual assault. So he gave Ashley the heads up. He said he was going on trial for his alleged assault towards a woman named Sandee. He said that Sandee was a liar, that she made this up because she was upset that he denied her, that he wasn't wanting a relationship with her, and that made her mad. This really affected Ashley. She, of course, was so in love with Tracy and did not want him to go to jail. They even had a pact. I can't say the word, but like a take your own life pact together. But they didn't go through with that. So on 4th of July, they got married. Tracy asked her when he wanted the big day to be, and she said 4th of July because how cool would it be that every anniversary fireworks would happen? Of course, this wasn't a big wedding. They got married inside the gym, just signed the paperwork, and they were married. To celebrate afterwards, they went to the Cheesecake Factory and got tattoos of each other's name on their back. But instead of a romantic honeymoon, they decided on murder. On July 5th, the next day, Sandee left her job at the Green Iguana at 10:30 p.m. Little did she know that a woman she's never met before was trying to kill her. Ashley had been in a rental car in the parking lot for about 8 hours waiting for Sandee to leave work. During this time, she made 14 phone calls to her husband. Ashley was in dark clothing with black face paint, and she was wearing a ball cap. She said she had this disguise just in case a witness saw and hopefully would tell police that a black man killed her. Ashley said she actually had fallen asleep and she woke up when Sandee started her car. Sandee made the drive to her house in Pensacola Park, Florida. She made it home. She parked into her garage. Ashley would later testify that she shattered the window with a bullet and she shot Sandee 7 or 8 times. Meanwhile, upstairs is Sandee's boyfriend, Tony. Luckily, her daughter was not home this weekend. Tony said he had woke up because he heard a loud boom. This was not unusual. It was 4th of July weekend, but he thought it was way too loud and was concerned that it was in their front yard. So he gets up, he's only in his boxers, and he goes downstairs. He looks at the time and it's 11:10. He's thinking Sandee should be home by now. So he checks the garage, and that's when he makes the sad discovery of Sandee in her car with blood everywhere. Of course, Tony calls 911 and Sandee is taken to the hospital, but sadly is pronounced dead a little after midnight on July 6, 2003. Of course, an investigation starts, and when investigators talk to Tony, they can't rule him out quickly because just of how it all went down. He's the only one home. He discovers her. I believe there was gloves in his car, but he was very cooperative. He let them take pictures. He let the investigators go into the house. But they asked him, "Who do you think did this?" And he said, without hesitation, Tracy Humphreys. And when Sandee's mother arrived, she said the exact same thing. They had told police that Tracy had assaulted her and the trial would begin in literally about a month. So the police started to investigate Tracy. They obviously saw that Tracy had a record, and it was not a good record either. He had prior history of sexual violence against women, kidnapping, and, the theft charges. But Tracy lived about 40 miles away in Brandon. So the investigators took the 40-mile drive to Brandon to talk to Tracy. He didn't answer his door, so they left the card, and they received a phone call from Tracy. He said, "Meet me at my work at the gym." So of course investigators go there, and Tracy said, "No, not without my lawyers." They soon discovered that Tracy actually had gotten married that week, literally the day before Sandee was murdered. So they talked to Ashley, and she's like, "Yeah, we got married. We went to the beach. We had pizza that night. But no, we didn't kill anybody." But Tracy interrupted the interview. He came home and he stopped it completely. The investigators said that their spidey senses went off because when Tracy ended the interview, he was furious. He actually was described as purple. He was so mad. So investigators were like, maybe we're onto something. So they want to destroy his alibi. They first go to the pizza man who delivered the pizza, and he said, "Yeah, I saw him. He was there. I delivered a pizza to a man who looked just like that." And so they're like, crap. So since the pizza man confirmed Tracy was there, they wanted to talk to Toby, a woman who Ashley said was there that night with them. So police asked her if she wanted to confirm Tracy and Ashley's alibi, and she said yeah. But then Tracy told her not to talk to them without an attorney. Toby told the investigators that, and they said, "We'll just do a deposition instead." So in a written statement later, Toby said which is, I kind of like that name for a girl. Anyways, Toby said that she was there with them that night from 8:30 to about 1 in the morning. She said that they ordered a pizza and just hung out. Now, Toby was a client of Tracy's, but also a friend. So, this is kind of a dead end for the investigators, but they just can't shake the feeling that something's not right. They went down other leads. They couldn't find anyone that would want to hurt Sandee. Everybody said that Sandee was so loved, and the only person who could have done this was Tracy. So they said if Tracy didn't do this, maybe his wife did. So in September of 2003, they received the phone records for both Tracy and his wife, Ashley, and ding-a-ding-a-ding. It showed that Tracy was home, but Ashley was not. It showed that Ashley's cell phone was pinging off a tower close to Sandee's work, and actually showed that tower to a tower near Sandee's home. It also showed all the phone calls between Ashley and Tracy, and like a perfect little ping 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 all the way until she got back home. So investigators went back to Toby and said, do you have something you want to tell us? Because we got their phone records. So Toby agrees, she tells him everything, and she begins wearing a wire in hopes of getting Tracy to confess. She wears this wire for about 3 months, and she said she is scared shitless. Every time she would talk to Tracy, you could even hear him like pat her, and over the recording she's like, why are you touching me? So he was paranoid. But in security footage with her wearing the wire also, she tells Tracy and Ashley outside of, I think, the gym that, hey, they got your cell phone records. It shows her near the crime scene, and they begin to freak out. Tracy and Ashley did. During this time, it's also not looking good for Ashley because her stepfather David said that Ashley borrowed his gun, a .22 caliber, which is the same gun that Tracy was killed with, that Ashley had taken it for protection. By December, they had enough evidence for Ashley, but they still didn't have enough for Tracy. So they needed something to get Tracy behind bars. They had found out that Tracy actually had taken Ashley to a shooting range and held a weapon trying to show her how to shoot. And this was against his parole. This still wasn't enough evidence to convict him of Sandee's murder, but it was enough to arrest him for violation of parole. So on December 18th of that year, they arrested both Tracy and Ashley. And that's when the interrogation starts. Of course, they're separated. Investigators are talking to Ashley, and people give props to Ashley. She was not backing down. I think you should always have a lawyer present with you. That's just my opinion. Even if you didn't do anything, always ask for your lawyer. But during this interrogation, the investigators showed Ashley a picture of Sandee's young daughter in hopes of trying to get her to confess, trying to make her feel any type of, what did I do? I took this little girl's mom, who she's never going to see again, but Ashley seemed like she didn't care. So that didn't work. So Ashley was transported to Pinellas County Police Department. This is when Ashley's lawyers are trying to tell her, like, hey, you're going to prison. But because they felt like Ashley wasn't really understanding it, and Ashley would later go on and say, yeah, I thought I was going to go home. I didn't think they had anything. But her lawyers are like, hey, you need to turn on your husband because you're either going to spend the rest of your life in jail, life without parole, or you're going to get the death sentence. So you need to go against your husband. But Ashley was like, no, I love him. He's the one. So that's when her lawyers tell her, hey, you know your man? He was not a model. He was not a football player. He never played in the Rose Bowl. And he was never a stunt double. But Ashley was like, no, no, I love him. She said she was a little she's like, what? He lied to me? But that was not what broke her. What broke her was that they came to her saying that her husband was a bisexual, that he was having an affair with Ashley's hairdresser. And that's what made her go against her husband. Not investigators showing her a picture of Sandee's daughter, not the fact that her husband lied to her about everything, but the fact that he was cheating on her with another man. So she agreed to testify against her husband in order to receive a less sentence. So on March 2nd, 2004, she sat down and told the truth after 3 months of not talking. She told prosecutors that Tracy was the mastermind. He manipulated her. He told her, if you don't kill for me, it's over. Of course, the state had to hear the truth first from her. They're not just gonna give her a less sentence with just, bullshit. So she had to cough up a few things, tell them everything. And boy, did she tell them everything. She had told investigators that Tracy told her to shoot at vital organs, so she's dead. She's not in the hospital, just hurt, telling the truth of who shot her. He told her that if it doesn't work this time, he's gonna be mad. And they said this time, she said that this was not their first attempt at killing Sandee. A month before Sandee was murdered, Ashley went to her work again and tried to shoot her with a different gun. Obviously, this didn't work out. Ashley said she had issues with the gun and it shot somewhere else. Ashley said that Sandee looked around but continued on with her day. She didn't even tell anybody that she heard a gunshot noise near her. So the second attempt was the time that worked. Ashley also told investigators that after the murder, she called Tracy, which is confirmed by the phone records. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, what'd I do? She told them that she asked for pizza. And she was very blunt about what she wanted. She said, I want extra cheese, chicken, and tomatoes. And she was upset because Tracy told her, no, you're not getting extra cheese with chicken and tomatoes. And she's like, why? I did this for you. And he said, because I already ordered it. I already ordered pizza. Because you did such a good job. Sick. Sick. How could you think about pizza? Really? Since it seemed like Ashley was telling the truth, they would lessen her sentence. But Sandee's mother said that, of course, they wanted to see Ashley go to jail, but it's not her that they were really focused on. It was Tracy. They wanted him to spend the rest of his life in jail. She said if it wasn't for him, Sandee would still be alive. So on Valentine's Day 2006, Ashley testifies against her husband. She said she's very shocked to see him because he's a tiny little thing and she got bigger, she says, but that Tracy looked different off the steroids. She testified that Tracy had told her to look in Sandra's eyes to make sure her soul left her body. She would have a certain look in her eyes that would let her know that Sandee was deceased. which is just creepy. She's like, I leaned into the car and looked at her to make sure her soul left her body. That is some scary, creepy ass shit. That is like psychopath. Psychopath. Of course, she goes on into detail about everything else. Tracy was manipulative. Tracy would later take the stand like a dummy, but he has the right to, I suppose. Says that it was not his idea, it was Ashley's idea. He said that Ashley was the one that came to him and said, what happens if, Sandee didn't show up to the trial? And he said, don't you think about that. Why would you think about that? But after 2 hours of deliberation, the jury found Tracy guilty. He had life in prison without the possibility of parole. Ashley would only get 25 years in prison. He said that he's innocent of this crime and that he's not gay, that he was never having an affair with the hairdresser. Ashley said that she never wished she met Tracy that day, that she was the one that pulled the trigger, but Tracy was the one that killed Sandee that day. Ashley said that this murder was fueled by love. But obviously, everyone knew that Tracy trained Ashley like his weapon. There is 2 interviews I saw with Ashley when I was looking into this. And the first one, she's probably still in her 20s. She's very young. I don't think it hit her how what she did was horrible. I don't think she felt really remorseful in the first interview. She seemed kind of still naive. But in the second interview she did recently, not really recently, I think it was 2017, with Piers Morgan for Killer Women, she seemed like it hit her. Like, she seemed very remorseful, that Tracy was very manipulative, and she also confessed that what Tracy said was true, that she told him at first that it was her idea, but she said that she only said it because Tracy wasn't saying that. And Pierce was like, so it was your idea? And she was like, no, I said it, but Tracy, in White Chicks where, you said it, but I was thinking it. That's what it felt like. She wasn't 100% still taking accountability, I felt like. She will be released from prison very soon, like December of 2028. She will not even be 50 then. So she still gets more life to live outside of prison. But Tracy will spend the rest of his life in prison and no possibility of parole. He also tried to escape prison at one point, so he got 15 extra years added to his life sentence. But that is the case of Sandra Rozzo. I will hopefully see you guys soon. It's a busy month for me. I hope you guys stay safe and stay golden.